and welcome to Aftershock Online, episode 4. Today, I'm very excited to have my friend and founder of Myriad Real Estate, Danny Brown, with me. I'm going to introduce Danny, talk a little bit about his background. So Danny is a native to the Phoenix area and also graduated from ASU in business management. He's been in real estate for a little over 10 years, and he got in during a distressed time, and through that, he was able to start Myriad Real Estate. And I'm going to have him talk a little bit more about that. But Danny is an avid fitness and nutrition enthusiast. He does CrossFit, spin, yoga. As you can see, he looks like a stallion. So, Danny, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Absolutely. So, I had mentioned you had gotten your business started in a pretty stressful time, and it was 2008. Is that right? 2007.
Well, I got into real estate. I got my real estate license in 2007. So
okay.
That's kind of when the recession hit. Was late 2007, early 2008. So I was getting my license in August of 2007.
So talk to me a little bit about that time frame of going into real estate, what you had to do to be successful, and kind of how you carved your niche.
So I was really fortunate. I had a good friend at the time who gave me the opportunity to join his family's team that was already well established, and I learned a lot while working with them. And to really survive and to keep that team afloat during the recession, because most people were getting out of real estate, people were going to foreclosure, they were short selling. It was terrible. Mm-hmm. And to survive during that time, I started working and got in really good with some of the banks that were taking just tons and tons of property back due to foreclosures. And then we were listing those properties for sale and selling them for pennies on the dollar, really. I sold, I think the cheapest property during that time I sold was a 2-bed, 1-bath townhome for $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't glamorous work. It took selling over 100 properties per year for that time frame to actually make any sort of money, because when you sell a $10,000 townhome, the commission, the return on that is extremely low. And so it wasn't selling, these multi-million or even several $100,000 homes. They were all like $50,000 and $60,000 homes. And so it was a lot of hard work. It was a grind, and had to just invent that process because it was new to everybody. Nothing like that had ever happened before.
Wow. So what was it like selling one property at an average of every 4 days? That's a lot of work.
I never thought about it like that. It was a ton of work. I learned so much. I feel like in just a 3-year period, which is how long I was doing it, I became a veteran in real estate because I came across so many scenarios. I learned how to analyze different neighborhoods really quickly. Mm-hmm. And even though I'm a native to Phoenix, I learned more about the valley in that 3-year period than I had, growing up in my sheltered middle-class life. So it was definitely a grind. I mean, I was doing, market analysis. They were called BPOs, which is like an unofficial appraisal for
mm-hmm.
the bank at, 11, 12 o'clock at night. I had to process all the utility payments. I had to turn the utilities on in my name for all of these different properties. So I had accounts set up with SRP, APS, city, all the different cities to have water. And then you had to file for reimbursement. So if you weren't organized, you didn't get paid back. The banks wouldn't reimburse you unless you had proof that you were paying these things. So you had to have, money set aside, sometimes $20,000, $30,000. So had a line of credit to be
mm-hmm.
able to pay those utility bills, and just had to, again, none of these systems were established. So I had to invent them as I went along, and I got really good at it. And was able to, I think, in my small part, help the city of Phoenix get out of the recession by moving these properties quickly. And again, I learned just a ton during that time as well.
Sounds like quite the baptism by fire. I mean, you really got into it and scrambled, and it sounds like you were able to figure it out. And because of that, do you attribute that to the success that you've gone on to have?
Yeah, I do. I take a lot of the things that I learned in terms of how to analyze the markets mm-hmm. From what I learned helping the bank sell those properties. What I took from how to treat clients and customers is actually witnessing the destruction of what happened to many of these families. I would have to negotiate with these families and do cash for keys, where I show up and I'm knocking on the door, letting them know that they no longer own the house and they need to get out. So the banks had authorized us to offer them money to move out. And the banks wanted us to offer them as little as possible, and I didn't necessarily agree with that, and kind of encourage them in a roundabout way to ask for more, because they could. And what I took from that is, I think a lot of people leading up to the recession treated people very poorly and took advantage of people that didn't know any better. As a realtor, you're supposed to be a trusted resource, and people are hiring you to do this job because you're supposed to know all the laws, and you owe your client a fiduciary responsibility. And I don't think that happened leading up to the recession. And so in starting my own team, I wanted to educate people and really put their needs ahead of my own, and not be responsible for somebody getting into a situation that they couldn't necessarily afford. So sometimes, we'll tell clients, you shouldn't be buying a house, or you shouldn't buy this house. Like, you're not in a position yet, even though the bank or your lender may be telling you that you're qualified. I think that you still need to set some money aside and save so that you don't put yourself in a bad situation. So we really try to put the needs of our clients ahead of our own. And I really took a lot of that from seeing what happened to people during the housing crisis.
That's awesome. And I've met quite a few of people that you've sold homes to or helped sell their homes. And I mean, it was the same message every time. Man, Danny really took care of me, his team. They were efficient, but you really do put their needs above their own. And that's something a lot of people say, but not always something that people do.
Well, it's hard to do. I mean, when you're looking at your bottom line, and I could take this shortcut and get this deal closed, and that's a paycheck for me, and now I can feed my family. But I think there's a quote that I kind of live by, and if it's on a long enough timeline, if you do the right thing, you're going to win. And so I always try to do the right thing and put other people's needs ahead of my own, because I think, given enough time, that I will succeed by doing that. And most of my past clients are now some of my closest friends. Like, I don't just want to be done with a deal and then disappear. I want to have an ongoing relationship with those people and that family. And if I do a terrible job or I shortchange them, they're not going to want to speak to me anymore.
Right, absolutely. And I've been to some of the happy hours you've put for past clients. You've done some bowling events, and that was very unique. We work with some realtors in the area, and you by far do more when it comes to that stuff and staying in touch with them. And I would imagine it probably lends itself to more future referrals with just by a happenstance.
Yeah, I think most agents are kind of just looking to the next client, and there's a herd mentality, and everybody right now is going after new clients and doing, spending a lot of money on marketing and advertising. And where I think we kind of separate ourselves is by really catering and taking care of the people that already know, like, and trust us. And I much rather get a referral from a great past client or friend than try to convince someone who's never met me that I'm trustworthy. I think it's a better way of doing business. I have more fun doing it. I'm getting to hang out with friends. So when we throw these events, it's not a chore. It's something that I actually want to do, because I'm getting to provide and, share my success with the people who have made me successful.
Right. So, and with Myriad, let's go to the start of that. And you started to develop this vision for your company, and you wanted to incorporate a lot of these things. But you were in it was a more stable economy, because you started it in 2014. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2014. Yep. It was more stable economy there. What were some of the things you were doing to market yourself, to get the name out, since nobody knew who Myriad was at the time?
Well, fortunately, because I had been in real estate since 2007, there was I had a database of past clients who I had helped, and I just naturally, not even doing it on purpose, stayed in touch with those people just because I like them, and I like staying in contact with people that I enjoy. So when I made the transition and started my own company, a lot of those people just, cool, like, we're going to continue to work with you and refer you clients. So it was really, I found myself in a very fortunate position to have that as kind of a launching off point, to have that book of business already set up. And I think that made things somewhat easier. I mean, starting your own business, regardless of where you're at, is always difficult and presents its own challenges. But having a small book of business already behind me from the previous 7 years was definitely helpful.
Awesome. And it's been fun. I've watched my home group, who you're with, grow over the last several years.
Yeah.
And it's neat because I do this top 25 realtors every month. And almost every month I get to see Danny up there, and sometimes as high as 2 and 3. And it's just really cool because, I mean, we've been friends for a while, but to see that success continue, it definitely attributes to doing things right. What are some tools that you use to stay in touch with clients or to market your business effectively?
I think it's multifaceted. Having a really good CRM in place, a system that you can plug all this information into that will remind you to do these things. I can't keep all that data in my head. I've got to have systems in place, and building those systems early on has really helped us in that way. So, we've got a birthday program for our VIPs and past clients. So every week, it's reminding us of whose birthdays are that week, so that we know what we need to do. And then also just having a really good team. I mean, I couldn't do all of this by myself. So creating a culture and a vision, and having, a team behind it that buys into that vision and culture really makes a huge difference. And it's taken 4 years of trial and error through hiring and figuring out what my vision and culture is to get to this point. And it's super exciting to have the people around me that I do that really make things easy.
What are the things that you look for in an employee to be a part of the Myriad vision and future?
I really look for people who it's way different. I run my team wildly different than most real estate teams that are out there. I don't pay commissions. Everybody's on salary. I want to get to the point where I'm offering, health insurance and retirement accounts. As a small business owner, it's challenging, but that's my goal. Fortunately, my team is really young, and with some of the changes that were made, they're all on insurance from other avenues, but I know that that's going to change. So part of my long-term goals is to be able to offer that so that they don't end up leaving. So I'm not looking for these all-star salespeople that want their name up in lights. I'm looking for individuals who are humble and really want to put the client's needs ahead of their own, people who are hungry, and people who are intelligent. It's really those three things are the foundation, because I think everything else can be taught. It's that attitude that can't be taught. And if they've got the wrong attitude, then it's poison to your company culture. So honestly, most of the people I've hired haven't had real estate licenses already. So I paid for them to get licensed, and they haven't even considered real estate as a career because it is commission only, and that's terrifying for some individuals. But some of the best people who provide the best and highest level of service, they want that security of having, a steady paycheck. And my team is offering that to our employees, so they don't have to worry about how many deals they're closing this month. And, of course, I worry about that as a small business owner. But for them, when they're out with clients, it really allows them to put the client's needs ahead of their own, because their paycheck is taken care of.
Yeah, there's no additional monetary pressure for them when talking to a customer. They're going to see that person the same as they would see someone that might be 6 months out in closing, as opposed to someone that's a week out.
Yeah, and whether we're helping someone that's buying their first home at $100,000, which is really hard to do right now, or somebody who's trying to buy a multi-million-dollar home, that level of service from my team is the same, because they're getting the same. Now, I do profit sharing. So when the company does well, then the team does well. And it really promotes that team atmosphere. So nobody's competing with one another on whose client this is, which is, something that was on the team I was on before. Like, if I went on vacation, I didn't have anyone covering my business for me unless I was paying them to do it or splitting commissions. It sucked. Like,
yeah, it was more everyone out for themselves.
It was.
Team.
And when I'd go on vacation, I was constantly working and taking phone calls and never really had a chance to unplug. And I know if there's any realtors listening, they know what I'm talking about. My team is totally different because when I go on vacation, when somebody else goes on vacation, I want them to be able to unplug. So, one of our team members went to Flagstaff this weekend for the 4th of July. I was in town, so I stepped in and covered for her while she was gone, no questions asked, so that she could unplug and not have to worry about it. Because I know when I go out of town, I want that same, luxury that our clients will be taken care of while somebody's gone. So everybody's cross-trained on what everybody else does, and I think it just really provides a higher level of service for the client, which is, why we're in business, is to help people.
Absolutely. And you've answered some of this already.
Sure.
But what are some of the things that have differentiated you in a very competitive market? It seems like, because we do business in different parts of the country in the real estate lead generation, and it's amazing how competitive this is, even compared to some of the bigger cities out there. How have you differentiated yourself?
It's really hard, especially right now, because people watch HGTV and they think real estate's easy. Like, I'm going to go and I'm going to get my real estate license because it only takes 90 credit hours, which is a huge joke, and I'm going to start selling houses. And the way that I try to differentiate myself is experience. I've been doing this for 11 years now. I've helped and sold hundreds and hundreds of properties, so there's typically not a scenario that I don't know how to navigate around, and providing as much value and information for free as I possibly can. I put out all of my best stuff online, YouTube, just for free for people to look, and they can use that however they see fit. The hope is that I'll provide so much value that they'll come back and use me either now or in the future. And then again, it just really has to do with staying in contact with past clients. I think the statistic is crazy. It's something like 75% of people don't use the same realtor that they use to help them buy their house because they forget who they are.
Yeah.
Somebody does real estate on average every 5 to 7 years or every major life event. And so it's a constant battle to remind those people that you're here so that when they are ready, that they come back to you. So I really think that, creating systems and putting those things in place so that when people are ready, they think of you.
And it seems like you have a lot of fun in that aspect of staying in touch with people, because you do the events like we had talked about. But one of the things that recently I got a delivery in my office, and it was from you, and it was assigned or addressed to my wife. So I open it up, and it's this cool little pinwheel, and it's got an American flag, and it's got a little message for the 4th of July, and then sparklers. I'm like, wow, this is cool. I took it home. My kids instantly started playing with the pinwheel. And, who's this? Oh, Mr. Danny, because they've met you a couple times. And I'm like, wow, that's such a great way to stay in touch with people. And 3 years ago, I think it was, maybe 2 years ago, first time I had ever received a gift, honestly, outside of
this is
a
the peak of
family
my
member.
marketing prowess, by the way. Like, I can never top this.
Yeah, no, I mean, the first time I'd ever received a gift outside of a family member, I get a cupcake, and it's, from you, saying happy birthday. And I've been very fortunate. People send me just
I thought
random
you were going to
things.
reference the golf balls.
Oh, no, the golf. I'm glad you reminded me of that. So the golf balls for Father's Day, I get a nice set of Pro Vs, and it says, for Father's Day, we're giving you your balls back.
Yep.
And I laughed hysterically. My wife laughed. I heard that you had a few people that didn't have the same sense of humor, but overall, I mean, what a memorable thing.
Yeah.
You've done a really good job of just staying in front of people. And I think that's a huge piece of it is, like you had mentioned, if you're in front of them, they're not going to forget about you. They're not going to forget your name. And you already did a great job for them, so why wouldn't they use you the next time?
I think the goal with those is, everybody sends something, and we do it too, but send something for Christmas. Whether it's a card or whatever, and you just get inundated with that stuff that it doesn't differentiate yourself at all because you just get lost in the mix. So we try to send out gifts during times of the year that people probably aren't receiving other things. Yeah. So, the 4th of July, we did chocolates for Mother's Day, the golf balls for Father's Day, something that we're going to start doing annually that we did this last year and had a really good turnout, are pies for Thanksgiving. So if someone wants a pie, they just come and get it, and we give them an apple or a pumpkin pie. And then we're really big into charity too, so for every pie we give to a client, we donate one to a local shelter. So I'm just so appreciative of, because of how competitive it is out there and how many people have real estate licenses, that I'm so appreciative to the people that give me the opportunity to help them and give it to me multiple times, that I would give them as much as I can afford. And it's just a small way of me showing my appreciation. And the number of text messages and little videos I got from people and their kids with the sparklers, like, it really touched me that people were having fun with those, and that was the whole idea. There was nothing behind it other than just saying, I appreciate you, happy 4th of July to your family, and the response was just so overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, it's creating special moments for people. Yeah. And I think, the fact that you do that is incredible. I don't see it happen. So it's awesome. So moving on to something, I know you are always educating yourself. One of the gifts you got me last year was a Tim Ferriss book, Tools of Titans. Yeah. Fantastic book. But talk to me about some books and podcasts that maybe in the last couple of years have helped you, change your thought process or helped you in different ways.
I love Tim Ferriss. I love his podcast. I've read, everything he puts out. Yeah, just really good information. Gary Vaynerchuk, if you're not familiar with him, he's put out some really solid books. He's super entertaining to watch YouTube videos because he doesn't sugarcoat anything. Yes. And just basically, if you're not hitting your goals, it's no one else's fault but yours. Like, you are in control. Everybody has the same 24-hour period to get things done, and if you're not accomplishing what you've set out to accomplish, then it's on you and nobody else. Right now I'm on a Dan Kennedy kick. Okay. He writes, he has a series of books, the No BS Guide to whatever. We're trying to expand, and, there's a big shift. Like, I'm way behind the curve in terms of digital marketing. And so, I'm hiring people, but I don't know what to tell them. So I'm trying to educate myself so that at least I can speak their language and get across what, my ultimate vision is. So I'm on a Dan Kennedy kick right now. We're kind of reading every book that he's put out, and they're short reads and it's really to the point. Like, I hate those books where, they make an argument for why you should read this book in the first, quarter of it. The middle of it is actually the stuff that you want to know, and then the end of it is why you should put it in place. Like, I really only care about the center part of most books. Yeah. The ends of it, the beginning and the end, are just fluff. And so Dan Kennedy takes that kind of stuff out. Yeah, I've known about his work for quite a while. He was real famous for being, funny enough, extremely wordy in his advertising, though. Yeah. Not necessarily in his books, but when he's advertising, basically giving people the whole ball of wax. Yeah. Whether it was, the time, it was more postcards and even early internet, making sure that, long form pages, landing pages you're sending people to and all that. And he has been, very well revered in the marketing world for a long time. And then a couple books I read every year, Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect, and The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster are two that he wrote. The Compound Effect is basically doing small things every day to make yourself better that will compound over time to make huge, huge changes. And then The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster is just a good reminder that as an entrepreneur, it takes me back to basics and reminds me that being an entrepreneur is hard and it has its highs and its lows, and that all other entrepreneurs are kind of going through the same thing, and you just, bite the bullet and get it done.
If there was one thing you could tell an entrepreneur to start their business or give them a mindset, what would that be?
Entrepreneur is a word right now that's thrown around.
Far overused.
Yeah, far overused, and it's very, I think people think it's glamorous, and it's not. Being an entrepreneur is a grind, and it's working long hours, and no one's an overnight success. You think they're an overnight success, but you don't see the 5 or 10 years of hard work that they put in to all of a sudden now you know who they are.
Right.
So no matter what field you're in, running your own business is super, super difficult, and I think that's why so many of them fail. I think that, if you do fail, you should just try again if that's what you want to do, because there's nothing wrong with failure. You just figured out a way not to do it, and do it differently the next time. I subscribe to somewhat the fail fast theory, which I think some of Silicon Valley throws that term around too much as well. I think originally it was meant to, whatever it is you're doing, whatever it is you're putting it out there, like do it quickly, do it terrible, but get it out there because you're only going to get better with time. The same goes with starting your own podcast and starting videos and doing these things. If you just need to do it.
The idea of taking action, and when you take action, you're going to try, fail, and adjust. But if you don't take action, you're just guessing.
If you're waiting for whatever it is you're putting out there to be perfect, you're too late.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, we're going to move in right with the Aftershock takeaways.
Sure.
You had mentioned this earlier, but on a long enough timeline, if you do the right things, you're going to win. Expand a little bit on that. I mean, give me some examples of what you mean by that, because that's one of my favorite quotes, and I see it on Instagram every once in a while.
I actually had to Google it to see if anyone else said it, because I didn't know where it.
I'm pretty sure it's just you.
It's just me. It was not in Google, so I it was my quote, and I honestly believe it that if you want to be successful, then if you make enough people around you successful, that you will then in turn be successful. And it's about giving, and however you measure success. If it's your bank account, if it's I measure it on the number of people I help, because I honestly believe that will then translate to a positive bank account. One of my favorite quotes is by Zig Ziglar, and he says, you can get everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. And I really believe that in the people I hire, that putting their needs ahead of my own, the clients that we help, if they're getting, when we're out showing homes, and I train my team to do this too, is to play devil's advocate. We look for every single reason why this person should not buy this house.
Yeah.
We're not getting distracted by the stainless steel appliances or the granite countertops. We're looking for, termites, structural issues. We're looking at the roof. We're pointing out, if the AC looks a little bit old and weathered. If they've said they want only single story and this is a 2-story, we're of course pointing that out. Or if it backs to a major road or a grocery store or something like that. So we're looking for any reason why they shouldn't buy this house. And if the client can overcome all of our objections, then it might be a smart move for them. Same when it comes to home inspections. I have countless stories of advising clients like, this house needs way too much work. We should back out and find you something else, because I don't want people to get into a money pit. I don't want people to get into a situation that they can't afford, because being a homeowner, it's expensive.
Yeah.
It's not just buying a house. It's all the routine maintenance. It's everything that goes along with it. And people really need to be prepared for that. And I want them to be prepared for it.
That's awesome. And then the last one, you said success is waking up every day with the feeling that work that you are doing will outlast you. And so it's built not on what you achieve, but what you help those around you achieve.
So, that really ties into kind of the way that I manage my team, I think, is that for me to be successful, they need to be successful. So I need to give them the tools and the education to to really elevate our clients and provide for them. So, as I get further in my real estate career, my clients will be less and less, the people who are buying and selling homes. My clients will be my team. And I really am going to have to take care of them and make them successful and put them in a position to succeed so that they can put our clients in a position to succeed. So, my quote, Zig Ziglar, that one, they all kind of go hand in hand, and they just all have to do with, not putting your individual needs ahead of everybody else's.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on today. Before we go, do you have anything for our audience? Any specific asks? I mean, granted, I can say if you're looking to buy or sell a home, honestly, Danny is someone I would recommend, and I have done so. But is there anything else you'd like to ask from our audience? Something they should be following of content you're putting out?
Well, we've got a great YouTube channel where I'm just constantly putting out what I think is super valuable information. Whether you're in the real estate market now or not, we do monthly market updates. I've got my own podcast. It's Danny Brown Talks Phoenix, where I bring on small business owners, people who are doing interesting things in Phoenix. And it's kind of similar to this, just a 30, 45-minute conversation. To allow them to talk about whatever. Some of it has to do with real estate, but a lot of it doesn't. And the one thing that I would point out to people if you are in the market for a home is just because somebody has a real estate license does not mean they know what they're doing. It takes only 90 credit hours to get a real estate license, and all that school is doing is teaching somebody how to take a test. I always tell people it takes 600 hours to become an esthetician, 90 to become a licensed realtor. And for most people, the largest investment they're ever going to make is buying a home. Now, do you want somebody who has, 11 years of experience, or do you want someone who does 2 or 3 transactions per year, just happens to have a real estate license because it's relatively easy to get? And it is easy. The test is not hard, but it has nothing to do with actual real estate and looking out for people's best interests. So, I just use that as kind of a word of caution, not a plug for you to use me by any means, but make sure that whoever you're using to help you with real estate knows what they're doing and has some sort of experience, because the license it's garbage. I mean,
Yeah, I would
it just
agree.
shows you can take a test.
And really, the way I would put it is, you want someone that's made real estate their career, not someone that has a hobby that's selling to just family and friends. And it comes with that experience. You can help them and look at things in a future purchase, like you had mentioned, and said, hey, guys, you might want to think about this and this, and advise them against maybe purchasing that. Someone else is just like, cha-ching, let me get that commission. You don't do that, and you need to find people that have made it their career, because they're looking not only for the sale now, but in 5 years as well.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't trust, hiring an attorney that just got his license and decided to start his own company, or a doctor. If I was going in for surgery, would I want a doctor who this is their first operation that they're doing? No. So why would you do that in real estate when you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars? And the difference between using somebody who has a lot of experience versus none can cost you tens of thousands of dollars in the end, either through negotiations or knowing what inspections to do. Most realtors don't push doing sewer inspections in Phoenix, and we do. For anything that is older than 1980, we push all of our clients to hire a plumber to inspect that sewer line, because that material is really old, and 9 times out of 10, if it hasn't been replaced, then it's close to failing. And we've saved our clients hundreds of thousands of dollars by doing just a sewer inspection. It's a $100 inspection, and most agents don't even know to suggest that. So it can really cost you a lot of money if you're not using somebody that knows what they're doing.
Absolutely. No, and I agree with you 100%. I mean, it doesn't matter what they're doing, what career, what you're hiring them for. You got to have a track record.
Yep.
So, well, thanks again, my friend, for being on. It's great to have you.
This is fun.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in to episode 4 of Aftershock Online. We look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks. And with that, we'll see you soon.